Well, we're at the offices of Attorney James Fiorentini. Let's talk a little bit about the pictures here. Where did you get these pictures and why did you put them up here?
Most of these pictures come from the special collections at the Haverhill Public Library. A really great asset that few people in the community know about, where you can go and do genealogy research, and you can buy old photographs. Now, I began by looking for an old photograph of my grandfather. My grandfather, Gus Fiorentini, ran an Italian market in Haverhill called Gus's Market.
Oh,
so I was looking for that photo, and I found it. I can't find it today, of course.
Right.
And then I was looking for a photo of my other grandfather, Guido Scamperino. He ran the Roma Restaurant in Haverhill, and I found an old picture, and I was able to get that to my mother. But then I got some of these other photographs here that have nothing to do with my family.
Sure.
But this is a picture of Railroad Square. In Haverhill in the Spanish-American War, a long-forgotten war, but fortunately not a long-forgotten square.
Right.
And those are the men, our fighting men, going off to fight in the Spanish-American War.
Oh, the trolley cars there?
That's right. That would have been around the 1890s.
It's quite crowded there.
That building there is somewhere around where the railroad train station is today, and just as it was 100 years ago, Railroad Square is still a key part to the revitalization of Haverhill.
Excellent.
So 1898 to today, still a key to the city. This is a picture of Washington Square in Haverhill. This is the Coombs building where my office was for the first 10 years of my law practice. This is the Hotel Whittier. And this is somewhere around the early 1900s. Many a wit has asked me if this is when I started practicing law. The answer is no. It was a little bit after that. But I got this because that's where my office was for 10 years. The post office is right across the street. And you can see this is the day the circus came to town. They used to have that. And again, it has historical significance, but also significance about what we should be doing today. We should be having more fairs and festivals, more street festivals, to attract people down to what is still a key area of the city, the area of the post office. This is the great flood in Haverhill in somewhere in the 1930s. Was it 1932, 1933? Some of the people watching would know better than I would. And this is downtown Haverhill. This is where the river is, somewhere back here. I never could quite orient this picture. And this actually was taken in front of where my grandfather's store later was and where Haverhill Music is today. Now, this boat, several people have come into the office and said that they were in that boat, or their parents were. Tom Sullivan, who's well known about town, said that his dad was one of the photos in the boat. And Red Slavert, who's very well known about town, our former harbor master, said that that's a picture of him in the boat right there. And a fellow who was an alderman in Haverhill in the 1940s came in and said he was one of the other fellows that was in the boat. The seawall is designed to prevent future floods, although, as my dad points out to me often, the seawall was partially built at the time of that flood in the 1930s. But everyone in Haverhill, including my folks who lived through that flood, remembers it forever and ever and ever. And this is a picture of John Kennedy when he came to Haverhill sometime when he was running for the United States Senate, which I think would have been around 1956. And if you look in the background, you can see an advertisement for a local insurance company. He was touring one of the old shoe shops in Haverhill at that time. Now, I got my start in politics back when I was in the 8th grade, when my dad took me down to the Cape and John Kennedy came out onto the lawn and said some words to us young children. And I've always remembered how inspired I was about getting involved in public life. I was in the 8th grade at the time. We used to spend the summer down at Cape Cod. And my dad said to me, I want to take you over to introduce you to a young man who will be, my dad predicted, President of the United States someday. So we went out down to Hyannisport, and there were lots and lots of kids. It was a bus tours that would come by, and kids would get out and get on the lawn, and people would walk up and down the street. It was a tourist attraction. President Kennedy came out onto the lawn and talked to us. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but something to the effect of, you want to get involved in politics someday. It's the greatest helping profession. It's the greatest means of helping people. I was always fascinated with that. And that was, more than anything else, I think, what inspired me to get into politics. Well, Larry, we spent our first 3 years here at 5658 Webster Street. And what I remember is sitting on these front steps, my sister and I, and then we'd walk next door, and there's a wonderful lady that lived next door that would give us cookies. And I can remember like it was yesterday, playing in the driveway, and my mother being scared, as mothers still are today, that we were going to rush out into the street and get hurt. So my dad was a hardworking guy, always has been, and he saved up his pennies to buy us our own house with our own yard, so we didn't have to play in the street anymore.